Good morning. Or should I say, it was winter in Rockville, or Gaithersburg, or Darnestown. Ay, ay, ay. Good morning. I wonder if you, like me, feel like you need to be here this morning, really need to be here, to be among friends, to pause from the chaos, to rest for a moment, to restore your faith, and to nourish your souls. I know that I need all of this today. I feel like we've been flung like a powerful slingshot back into the past, where there is much uncertainty and fear about the future. To tell you the truth, I'm weary. I'm weary, and maybe you are too. It's not enough that we have struggled over the past 2 years with the COVID pandemic. We've experienced so many fears, illnesses, and deaths. And this week, the United States reached the milestone of 1 million deaths due to COVID. And those were just the reported deaths. Estimates are that the number of deaths from COVID are much, much higher. I am weary. And it's not enough that we have struggled over the past years with racial and social injustice in our country, and many of us have learned and worked for justice and equality. It's not enough that the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and the middle class is being squeezed out. Housing is not affordable, student debt is crippling young people and young families, healthcare is barely affordable, and in some cases, in some states, not available to many people in spite of the Affordable Care Act. Equal justice under the law seems to be a myth, and the right to privacy, to personal decisions, to be able to live with authenticity and equality, to marry whom one loves, these rights are most likely in jeopardy in this country. I'm weary. Maybe you are too. And it's not enough that we are working hard to be the light amidst the darkness, to respect the dignity of every human being while other forces are trying to destroy the other, to love hate rather than to love hate and fear rather than to love, and to build an equitable and beloved community grounded in God's love and justice, while evil seems to be taking a foothold and gaining more and more in the world. I am weary. Maybe you are too. I found a prayer this week that speaks to weariness, that really spoke to me personally, and I think it might also speak to the times that we're in and the feelings that we might share. It's entitled, A Prayer for the Tired and the Angry Ones by Laura Jean Truman. It goes like this. God, we are so tired. We want to do justice, but the work feels endless, and the results look so small in our exhausted hands. We want to love mercy, but our enemies are relentless, and it feels like foolishness to prioritize gentleness in this unbelievably cruel world. We want to walk humbly, but self-promotion is seductive, and we're afraid that if we don't look after ourselves, no one will. We want to be kind, but our anger feels unsatiable. O God, in this never-ending wilderness, come to us and grant us grace. Grant us the courage to keep showing up to impossible battles, trusting that it is our commitment to faithfulness and not our obsession with results that will bring in your shalom. Grant us the vulnerability to risk loving our difficult and complicated neighbors, rejecting the lie that some people are made more in the image of God than others. Grant us the humility of a decentered but beloved self. As we continue to take the single step that is in front of us, Keep us from becoming what we are called to transform. Protect us from using the empire's violence in our words, in our theology, in our activism, and in our politics for your kingdom of peace. Keep our anger from becoming meanness. Keep our sorrow from collapsing into self-pity. Keep our hearts soft enough to keep breaking. Keep our outrage turned toward justice, not cruelty. Remind us that all of this, every bit of it, is for love. Keep us fiercely kind and loving. Amen. I am weary, and I am hopeful. Yes, hopeful to be reminded of God's abundant love for you and for me. God's shepherd calls us and knows us each by name. And even though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, God is with us. No matter what happens, God is present. Jesus, God incarnate, God in human flesh, calls us each by name, like a shepherd who cares for his sheep. Remember the parable when one sheep goes missing. Jesus leaves the 99 and goes to find that lost sheep. Even the most vulnerable, the most lost, is sought after. That gives me hope. Imagine for a moment that Jesus is cradling you in his arms, tears streaming down his cheeks because he has found each of us, each of you, and saved us from danger. Savor that feeling of being loved, of being cradled, of being nurtured. And whenever you need to come back to it, remember Jesus holding you in his arms, and find strength and comfort in God's warm and powerful embrace. I am weary, but I am hopeful to be reminded of the vision in the revelation of John of God's dream. There was a great multitude that no one could count from every tribe and nation and language and people. Hear that again, my friends. At God's throne, there was a great crowd, a multitude of people that no one could count, from every tribe, every language, every people and nation, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. These are they who have come out of the great ordeal. The great ordeal. And for this reason, they are before the throne of God and worship him day and night within God's temple. And the one who is seated on the throne will shelter them. No one will hunger anymore or thirst anymore. The sun will not strike them, nor any scorching heat. For the Lamb at the center of the throne will be their shepherd, and the shepherd will guide them to the springs of the water of life. And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. I am weary, and I am hopeful. Hopeful because Jesus, the Good Shepherd, calls us each by name, who walks with us through the darkest valleys, who seeks us out when we are lost or have gone astray, who cradles us in loving arms, who strengthens, guides, nurtures, and leads us to work for justice for all of God's people, who wipes away every tear from our eyes, and who promises to be with us always. Surely God's goodness and mercy shall be with us and follow us all the days of our lives, and eventually we will all dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.